Hello, and welcome to Sunday Reflections at Cork Unitarian Church. Today's reflection is about our personal and collective identity and how that helps shape our views on our own spirituality. When I reflect on, say, religiosity versus spirituality, I tend to see religiosity as having more to do with one's group identity within a religion. Like, I belong to this or that church or religion. And religions have, by their nature, common beliefs and practices that are taught and learned. That kind of group identity in religions may be as old as humanity itself. Certainly, when we look back anthropologically or even just historically, we see many religions were, at some point tribal in their nature. The focus of religion was as much or even more for the protection and success of the collective as it was about the individual. Now, over the centuries, this group identity took on many forms, going back and forth between tribal to racial to national identities. It changed with the times. For example, in Greek and Roman times, each city would have its own patron god. But when Christianity came to Ireland, towns and villages acquired their own patron saints. So, for example, I live in an area of Cork City referred to as St. Michael's Parish. So it seems that our local divine protector is the Archangel Michael. At the other end of the scale, we have mystics and their personal pursuit of their individual spirituality, a withdrawal into the inner world of oneself. This is the land of hermits and cloistered nuns and monks, of silence and meditation. This is a minority, but an often persecuted space in the world of religion. But nonetheless, it represents the other end of the continuum, the individual end, and the presence of both the collective and the individual natures of spirituality give us something to think about. Too often, religions have and continue to look at present individual value propositions that are reinforced by group thinking. It's a kind of, you can be saved if you do things our way. A common notion across many religions is that our human life is simply a test or a preparation to get us to a hopefully better afterlife. This can lead to a kind of otherworldliness. The people in life on this planet Earth are not their problem. These people become future-oriented towards and are in the become future-oriented, and the world they live in becomes a world of apocalypse, rapture, leaving civilization and nature to fall apart on their own. So there can be both benefits and excesses to spirituality focused either too much on the individual or on the collective. My experience is that from a spiritual perspective, it is important to look within oneself. That is where we have the most control and responsibility. However, for me, that cannot be my endpoint, because everything that I have in way of understanding my own sense of meaning, purpose, and connectedness has been learned from other people. And after thinking about it and looking more deeply into it, I found that those other people that I learned from, they themselves got it from other earlier people. In fact, there are really no new revelations, just recombinations and repackaging. But that repackaging of ideas is not a trivial contribution. if not effectively packaged for the current time and place. Such wisdom does not get transferred. It gets lost and will lay languishing, waiting to be rediscovered. Sometimes people sometimes like to attribute all wisdom to a higher power. Of course, that is a matter of belief that cannot be objectively argued one way or the other. My own concern about that line of thought is that it can cause me to separate from the people who would help make me wise, dismissing them as merely being conduits. And more significantly, it can downplay any responsibility that I might have to share any wisdom that I have been granted, thinking perhaps that it's God's problem to find a way to help those other people. My reality is that my existence is only possible because of other people. As a result, it is not reasonable for me to abandon other people in my personal search for God. In my own work as a healthcare chaplain, every client engagement is for me, in fact, an encounter with God. This way of looking at spirituality was elegantly described by the 20th century contemporary Jewish philosopher Martin Buber. In his short and easy to read book, I and Thou, Buber remarks, every human wishes to be confirmed in his or her being by another person, and wishes to have a presence in the being of that other person. Secretly and bashfully, he or she watches for a yes, which allows him or her to be, and which can come to him or her only from one human person to another. So let me now turn this reflection back to you. How do you view other people when you consider your own spirituality and your relationship with a higher power? Are they all just on their own from your perspective? Are you all on a journey together? Maybe you are traveling companions sharing different parts of your individual journeys. And how does your own spirituality relate to your responsibility to other people? I'll leave you with those thoughts for you to ponder. Amen. And now for our blessing. May we each bless ourselves by always acknowledging our dependence on the rest of humanity, past and present. May we bless each other by looking to see the presence of the divine in everyone we encounter. And until next time, I wish you all peace and blessings.